Squeaks, but don't worry, we'll have time for both. Oh hey, Squeaks and I are planning a trip to the Robot Hall of Fame in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Oh, okay. I guess we'll see C-3PO first, and I can visit Tom Servo later. Ooh, and we'll get to take an airplane ride to get there. I love going on planes. Plane rides are so cool. Oh, it's okay to be nervous. Squeaks has never been on a plane before, but that's okay. I'll be with you the whole time. Hey, do you think if I told you what to expect, that would make it less scary? First, we're going to go to the airport. It can be a little busy in the airport. It's full of lots of people, all in a hurry to get where they're going. We might have to wait in a line a few times, and it can be hard to wait, but it's easier if you bring something to do, like a book or a game. Oh, you can totally bring your tablet, Squeaks. Next, we're going to find a place called a gate. It's not a gate like the one on a fence. It's an area of the airport. Everyone getting on our flight to Pittsburgh will meet up at the same gate together. We'll wait there and listen for an announcement that it's time to board the plane. And that's when we'll get on. Ooh, yes, there will definitely be bathrooms on the plane. So we'll sit down and then buckle up. The flight attendants will make some announcements that will help us stay safe on the trip. And then it's time for takeoff. You'll feel the plane going faster and faster as it drives down the runway. It can get up to nearly 300 kilometers per hour. That's almost as fast as a race car. And then the plane lifts off into the air. The takeoff will sound pretty loud, and it can feel a little bumpy. That's totally normal. And once the plane is above the clouds, everything should feel pretty smooth. Oh, well, you're right. It won't feel quite like being on the ground. Let's see. What can we expect? It's going to be loud. Takeoff is about as loud as a jackhammer. And even after takeoff, the inside of the plane will be about as loud as a blender or a car wash. Our ears will get used to it, but it will definitely sound different. And as we get higher and higher up, the air pressure gets lower. The air around you isn't just empty space. It has weight, and it pushes down. We call that push air pressure. The plane will get so high up that there will be less air pressure to push on us. And the place we notice that most is our ears. And as the plane gets higher, your ears might start to feel funny. You'll feel some pressure, and if you move your jaw around, it kind of feels like it goes pop. So our ears might need a little help to adjust to the change in air pressure. You can chew gum or suck on candy if your grown-up says it's okay. And you can yawn, or you could swallow, and a drink of water might help with that. Oh, that's true. Your plane might also go through something called turbulence, which makes the ride a bit bumpy. Even though it feels like the plane is going over a bump like in the car, it's actually just air. It just means the air around the plane is shifting and moving around, like the wind you feel when you're on the ground. It's okay. Turbulence is a normal part of flying. The pilot might even tell us when we're going to feel some bumps. Finally, when we're getting close to Pittsburgh, the plane will start getting ready to land. As we get lower, you might feel your ears pop again as the air pressure changes again. You might feel your tummy drop a bit as the plane gets lower. And then you'll feel the wheels hit the ground and the plane is driving down the runway again, which means it's almost time to start our amazing vacation. Oh, you're right, Squeaks. Let's get packing. We'll be off to the museum in no time. Oh, hey there. Squeaks and I were just packing for our trip. We're going to a museum together. It's going to be Squeaks' first time ever on an airplane, but he's a little nervous. You remember what to expect, buddy? We'll put our things away, buckle our seatbelts, and then we'll take off. Oh, you're right. The airplane isn't going to flap its wings like a bird, but the airplane does need its wings to fly. Well, when an airplane is ready to take off, the pilot turns on the engines. The engines push the airplane forward along the ground on little wheels, going faster and faster and faster. The push or force from the engines is called thrust. Thrust is what will help to move the airplane forward on the ground and eventually into the air. The thrust force is also going to be really important for creating another special push or force that will push the plane up into the air. You see, the wings do something amazing as they move through the air. Air doesn't seem like very much to us. We can't see it, and most of the time, we don't really feel it. But air can push on things. It pushes down on us all the time. That's called air pressure. But air pressure doesn't only push down. The shape of an airplane wing can make air push it up instead. Here, let's check out a picture of an airplane to help show you. Here are the wings. And these big round things are the engines. You can see the wheels that the plane uses on the ground, too. But let's look at the wings of this airplane. What do you notice about their shape? Oh yes, great observation. This airplane's wings are kind of flat on the underside, but the top is a little bit rounded and curved. Because of an airplane wing's unique shape, air moves differently above and below it as the airplane moves forward from thrust. The air has to move from the front of the wing to the back as the airplane moves forward. But in order to get over the rounded top edge of the wings, the air has to move faster than it does to go underneath the flat bottom of the wing. Because the air underneath the wing isn't having to go as fast, it is able to put more of a push on the wings than the air above the wing. This pressure pushes on the airplane wings, and it pushes more up from the bottom, making the plane go, you're right, up. The push from the slower air under the wings is another force called lift. Lift does exactly what it sounds like. It lifts the airplane wings up into the air, bringing the whole airplane up, up, up. Oh, the airplane won't be lifted up forever, Squeaks. Pilots control how high up the airplane is lifted and whether it turns left, right, or back down toward the ground, using the engines and special panels on the wings and tail of the airplane. Those panels can change the way air moves around the wings, so they change the way it pushes on them too. Depending on where you sit in the airplane, you might even be able to see some of these special wing panels move as we take off and fly. Oh, I'm so glad that you're excited to watch the airplane work, Squeaks. And I'm glad that this is making you feel better about your first airplane ride. You know, sometimes just understanding something can make it a lot less scary. So now that you know how the shape of the wings and the thrust from the engines help an airplane to take off and fly, this trip isn't going to be just about traveling. It's now a great way to observe science and engineering in action.
Hey there, everyone. Squeaks was just telling me about the big trip he's planning with Jessi. It'll be his first time flying on an airplane. He's pretty nervous. It's natural to be anxious before a big event, but we've been helping Squeaks find ways to feel less scared. I think it's great that you're learning all about how planes and flying work to help you feel less nervous about your first plane ride. But there are a lot more things on planet Earth that fly than just airplanes. Can you think of some? Huh, Sam the Bat? Dino? Bill and Webb? We do actually have a lot of friends with wings, don't we? Different kinds of animals like bugs, birds, and bats all have wings. And have you ever watched all those different kinds of animals fly? They all look a little different when they fly, don't they? Let's check out some of the different ways animals use flight to get their bodies from one place to another. This is a really big bird called an albatross. They spend a lot of time soaring above the ocean. What do you notice about its wings, Squeaks? I think they look very long and skinny. A little like airplane wings, don't you think? Those big wings help them fly long distances to find the food they need. A little bit like the jet plane you're gonna fly on, these birds use their wings to move their bodies long distances. They travel a long way and for a long time because they're looking for food. Their favorite foods, like squid and animals called krill, might be far apart on the surface of the ocean. So the albatross has to move its body a long way to find the best food. In fact, one kind of albatross can fly around the whole world in just 6 weeks. What other kinds of flying things can you think of? Oh, yes, great idea. Bees have wings too, although they're very different from an albatross's wings. What do you notice about the shape or structure of a bee's wings? Yes, the wings of a bee are more short and stubby. And let's watch it fly. The albatross flies a long way while the bee makes lots of stops, jumping from flower to flower. The pollen and nectar in the flower are the bee's main food, and it has to visit lots of flowers. So rather than traveling a long way, it might visit many flowers that are close together. If the albatross flies a long way, like a jumbo jet, the bee is like a city bus, making lots of stops. They have to move their bodies in different ways to get food, so they have different kinds of wings to help them do that. And what about penguins, Squeaks? Have you ever seen one fly? I haven't either, but they are a bird and they do have wings. They just don't use their wings to fly in the air. Penguins use their wings to move themselves through the water. Scientists think it's a lot like other birds flying through the air since the penguins use their wings in a similar way. Let's look at a penguin's wings. See how their wings are flat, almost like the paddle of a boat? That shape or structure is good at moving the penguin through the water. It flaps its wings to swim, and that moves the penguin through the water, just like other birds flap their wings to move through the air. Why do you think penguins need to fly in the water instead of air, Squeaks? Yes, the penguin's food is fish, so the penguins have to move their bodies underwater to catch their food. Wow, Squeaks. There sure are a lot of different creatures that use their wings to move their bodies where they need to go, aren't there? Huh. Oh. Oh. Hi, everyone. I was just talking to Squeaks about the big trip he's taking with Jessi. Are you packed yet? Oh. I see. You're nervous because you've never flown on an airplane before. Squeak says he's been learning all about flying in airplanes, and I think that's a great idea. Once you learn about how something works, it can be a whole lot less scary. You know, it's a really blustery day outside, and that gives me an idea for another part of flying we can learn about. Birds and planes fly through the air, and when we can feel air moving around, we call it... That's right, the wind! In fact, some of you wanted to learn about it too. 7-year-old Max recently asked, where does wind come from? Thank you, Max. That's a great question. Wind is moving air. Air is all around us. When air gets hot, it goes up or rises. And when that happens, cooler air rushes in to take its place. That rushing air is wind. So anytime air is getting hot or cold, there's probably going to be some wind. As temperatures around the earth rise and fall from day to night and season to season, they can create big patterns of wind or winds that often do the same thing. We can look at a map of the earth to see how they move across the whole planet. There's maps of all kinds of things, including wind. We can't see wind, but we can still make pictures of the patterns it creates. Let me show you an example of a wind pattern. This wind pattern is called the jet stream. It happens over the whole continent of North America where we live. It's so strong it even affects airplanes sometimes. An airplane that is flying west to east this way might actually make the trip faster because it's flying in the same direction as the jet stream wind is blowing. The jet stream wind is pushing the plane. Yes, A lot like you push a friend on a swing. A plane flying east to west, the other way, might go a little slower because it's flying against the jet stream. So the wind is pushing against the plane. Wind can happen on a small scale too, like in your neighborhood. You've probably felt wind before when you've played outside. Those winds are happening on a smaller scale than wind patterns like the jet stream, but it's the same idea. When one bit of air moves, more races in to replace it. And when there is a lot of air moving around, it can get pretty blustery, just like today at the fort. Weather scientists, called meteorologists, help predict or guess how much wind there will be in a certain area. People can then make plans around those predictions. For example, pilots can track the big wind patterns and the smaller winds wherever they are flying to and from. Well, you're right. Airplanes can be pushed around by the wind. That's why pilots and other people who work with airplanes have to pay lots of attention to what the wind is doing, like knowing if they will fly faster or slower because of the jet stream. Wind can also affect the earth in other ways. Mountains and forests change the path that the wind can take, but really strong winds can knock down trees or other tall things. Wind also has a big impact on the shape of the land. Over a very long time, wind can even break down mountains. It's true. As it blows, wind can pull off small pieces of rocks or dirt and carry them away, bit by bit. Over millions of years, mountains and canyons get worn down and transform in big ways. Water wears away the land too, with rain and rivers. This is called erosion. It may not look like much at first, but over time it can transform the land. Erosion can make all kinds of cool shapes like sand dunes or yardangs. See how the wind has carved away the soft outer layers and left behind the harder rock. I think it kind of looks like a shark fin poking out of the sand. What do you think? Yes, Squeaks, I see that too. Wind is pretty amazing. It can change the shape of the land, move around clouds with rain in them, and even help us get where we're going faster. Best of all, I think Squeaks is feeling a little better, aren't you?
Hey there! Squeaks and I are getting ready for a big trip. We're going to take an airplane, and it will be Squeaks' first time ever flying. And even though he was pretty nervous about it, we've been learning all about flying to help him feel better. Oh, you're right, Squeaks. It seems pretty amazing that things as big as planes can fly. A lot of the things that we see that can fly, like insects, bats, and birds, aren't nearly so big. Ooh, Squeaks wants to know if any animal that could fly was as big as an airplane. Well, not as big as the jumbo jet we're going to take, but scientists think that once a long time ago, there was an animal about as big as a smaller airplane that flew in Earth's skies. It was a giant reptile that lived millions of years ago, and its name is Quetzalcoatlus. Ooh, good question. Even though Quetzalcoatlus lived at the same time as some dinosaurs, it wasn't a dinosaur. Dinosaurs are just one group of animals that lived a long time ago. So not all of the animals that lived in the past are dinosaurs. There were actually lots of animals living with the dinosaurs. Things like turtles, small furry mammals, and crocodiles all lived at the same time as dinosaurs too. And there were pterosaurs, which is the group of animals that Quetzalcoatlus comes from. Pterosaurs and dinosaurs have different shaped bones in their hips and in their arms, which helps us tell that they're not the same group of animals. Like lots of other ancient plants and animals, Quetzalcoatlus is extinct, which means it's not found anywhere on Earth anymore. And it went extinct long before people were around on Earth, so no one has ever seen one when it was alive. But we do know some pretty cool things about this animal. Like, Quetzalcoatlus was really big. It was as tall as a giraffe. Ooh, right! And it was as big as a small airplane with its wings stretched out. No one has actually ever seen a Quetzalcoatlus, so we've never had the chance to watch it and see if it could fly. Still, many scientists believe they did. Ooh, good question, Squeaks. How do we know so much about these extinct animals if no one has ever seen them? Well, there are scientists who study ancient life that are called paleontologists. They look for clues that the Quetzalcoatlus and other ancient forms of life have left behind. They put the clues together like a puzzle to make a picture of what this giant animal was like. Oh, what kind of clues? Well, the best known kinds of clues are fossils. Those are bones and other traces of ancient living things like Quetzalcoatlus. Fossils of pterosaurs helped us figure out that they had big, long wings. We can find very long, stretched out bones. And right by those bones are marks in the dirt that were made by the Quetzalcoatlus's skin. The marks show us that the long bones were connected by the skin to make a wing. Paleontologists look at things like the shape of bones and compare them to the shape of animals that are living today. If they look similar, then it makes sense that ancient animals might have something in common with animals living today. And when we compare the wings of animals today to Quetzalcoatlus's wings, we think that Quetzalcoatlus flew too. Not all animals that have wings can fly. Some, like ostriches and kiwis, don't. But Quetzalcoatlus's wings had lots of strong muscles. This looks different from the wings of birds that don't fly, like the kiwi. And it does look like many birds that do fly. We think that Quetzalcoatlus used their wings and their legs to leap into the air, and they probably only had to flap their wings a few times to keep themselves up there. Oh, that's right. It would look kind of like a kite. Kites don't have to move or flap to stay in the air. Just the air is enough to hold it up there, which is exactly how we think the giant pterosaur Quetzalcoatlus would keep itself soaring through the sky. Once in the air, they could probably travel about 16,000 kilometers without stopping. That's almost halfway around the Earth. Oh, that's great, buddy! Squeak says with everything he's learned, he's not scared to go on a plane anymore. In fact, he's really excited. Knowing more about the world always makes it less scary, and I think we're in for a fun adventure, don't you? Thanks for joining us here on SciShow Kids. If you want to keep learning and having fun with Squeaks, me, and all of our other friends, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time here at the fort.